With a new generation of NBA players taking over the league as seen in the finals, we are truly entering a new era of NBA basketball. As we reminisce over the past 10 to 15 years of basketball, the superstars of the era like LeBron, Curry, and Durant will get all the praise and attention. Other stars of the era like Westbrook, Damian Lillard, and Kawhi Leonard will get their flowers as well. However, in today's video, I will be going over 10 players that have faded away in recent memory from the 2010s decades. Ranging from stars to very solid role players, I wanted to highlight some of the forgotten players of the past 10 to 15 years. Before we do that, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Kemba Walker was a four-time All-Star from 2016 to 2020. The point guard out of UConn made a name for himself in Charlotte. Before LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller were the face of the franchise for the Hornets, Kemba Walker was a star out of Charlotte. He was one of the best and most consistent point guards in the league for a decade. He helped the Hornets reach the playoffs twice against the Heat, but they lost in both series. He was one of the shiftiest and craftiest guards to play in the 2010s and the Hornets legend, and along IT he helped usher the movement of smaller guards. Some may argue and question why I included Kemba Walker, as he was great and a very popular player. However, I feel like he's quickly been forgotten due to him falling off so quickly. After his last All-Star appearance and his first year in Boston, he got injured and faded away after a stint on the Knicks. A combination of getting old, injuries, and being a small guard forced him out of the league prematurely. The Hornets will always remember him, and some NBA fans will, but I fear he may be forgotten in NBA history. Victor Oladipo was the second overall pick in the 2013 draft to the Orlando Magic, in hopes of becoming a star. However, in Orlando, he never reached his full potential and started to find his footing in OKC. It wasn't until he was on the Pacers that he became an All-Star and an All-NBA player. He was an electric defensive force and was one of the best athletes in the league in his prime. He had a lot of promise as well, and he'd taken a Pacers team to the playoffs at just 25, where he took 2018 LeBron James to 7 games in the first round. After that season, he was just never healthy again. He played well enough the next year to become an All-Star yet again, but injuries to his knees and legs just kept piling up until he was washed. Now he's just an afterthought in the NBA. At just age 32, Oladipo's career was cut short and his prime was taken away from him. He's similar to the Michael Thomas of the NBA. I hope every year both of these guys get back to being healthy so they can prove they are still great players, but it never happens. The Pacers will remember him, but it will most likely get overshadowed by Tyrese Halliburton. Some NBA fans will remember him, but he will most likely fade into NBA history. The 2015 Hawks were a historic team winning 60 games. 4 of their 5 starters made the All-Star game that year. The only one not to was DeMarre Carroll. DeMarre was a solid NBA wing that could defend and give you valuable minutes. I remember him most having to guard LeBron in his first year back in Cleveland in the playoffs and getting destroyed. He continued to be on the wrong side of history as he played for the Raptors as well during the LeBronto era. He was just that guy that had to guard LeBron James in the playoffs for the East for some time. I also remember him in 2K, him being a salary matcher when I pulled up trade finders in the league. He was an integral piece of that 60 wins Hawk team and a solid starter for the Raptors teams. Some NBA fans may remember him, but he will mostly be forgotten. Speaking of that 2015 Hawks team, Paul Millsap was often regarded as the best player on that team, yet he was very quickly forgotten in NBA history. He was a solid player in Utah, forming a forgotten frontcourt with Al Jefferson for some years, but he really became known in Atlanta as he made the All-Star team all 4 years he was there. He was a good defender and he made All-Defensive team in 2015. He was a leader of those mid-2010s Hawk teams and was regarded as one of the best all-around players in the league. But oddly enough, I never hear him being brought up in the NBA community ever. After Atlanta, he signed with the Nuggets in hopes of forming a contender with Jokic. Jokic's rise to stardom, age, and injuries quickly led to Paul Millsap being forgotten on the Nuggets and in general. He also had peaked a little later in his career, making his fall-off more drastic. Hawks fans will remember him, but I'm pretty sure everyone else will forget him in just a few short years. Before Nikola Jokic was the best Nikola in the league, Nikola Pekovic was solid in Minnesota. I remember him being in the frontcourt with Kevin Love for a majority of his career. He was a really strong player as well, especially in the paint. He was a solid center, nothing special. He was a player that I associate most with the pre-Cat Timberwolves. When I think the Wolves before the rebrand, I think of him along with Kevin Love and Ricky Rubio, despite him not being on their level. Him entering the league at 25 and him never being healthy led to him being out of the NBA at 30, just in time for a young Cat to take over his role and start his career. Nikola could have stood out in NBA history due to his name, but Nikola Jokic ruined it for him. Think of him as the Nikola Pekovic of Nikola Jokic's. I think Wolves fans will remember him, but he's a fun player and I thought I would include him in this video, but he will mostly be forgotten in NBA history. The mid-2010 Celtics was headed by an MVP candidate in IT, Al Horford, Avery Bradley, Marcus Smart, and Jay Crowder, but forgotten players from the Celtics era, and one of my favorites was Jared Sullinger. Sullinger was a solid young big that in my mind was fun to root for. He reminded me of the next Glenn Davis for the Celtics. He was a great bench piece, and he was kind of like Naz Reid for the Wolves, but he wasn't as good. Then he played for the Raptors, got injured, and then he played in China. I haven't heard anything about him since. He definitely is going to be forgotten in NBA history, but I always will associate him with that Celtics era man by IT as just a great bench piece, and he had so much potential. Speaking of forgotten Celtics players, Brandon Bass was on those Celtics teams as well. Another solid player off the bench, he was also on the Dwight Howard Magic when they went to the finals. I remember him most by his name first. Second, playing against him in 2K10 as a Lakers fan. I played the Orlando Magic all day when I was younger. Lastly, he was a solid bench player, and I remember him being one of the main offseason additions as the Lakers made in 2015. I was hyped when he joined the team along with Lou Will and Roy Hibbert, but he ended up doing nothing for LA. After that, he was quickly forgotten and fell out of the league. Very few NBA fans will remember him, as he is just another solid role player to play in the league. On the topic of that Magic team that made the finals, Marcin Gortat was the backup center for that team. He was a Polish hammer. He is most known for being the starting center for the Beal and Wall Wizards era, a walking double-double, giving some decent defense. He was a model center for a contender, someone like Ivica Zubac, which is ironic because they play together. He was firmly one of the top 15 centers for most of his prime, and was a solid addition for any team. He was most known for his nickname as Polish Hammer. He had an amazing career for someone who was picked at the 57th pick, but he will mostly be forgotten in NBA history. Someone who wasn't picked in the second round is center Jordan Hill, as he was picked as the 8th pick in the 2009 draft, after Steph Curry and before DeMar DeRozan. He was a career journeyman and most known for his days with the Lakers. As a Lakers fan, I really liked him and hoped he would be a center and a role player for the Lakers for a long time. He even had his best season with the Lakers in 2015. He was a high-energy guy that was a traditional lob threat that you tend to see less in today's NBA. Injuries derailed his career as he never played a full NBA season in his career and fell out outside of the NBA. As a Lakers fan, I will definitely remember him and always tie him into the era of the Lakers with an aging Kobe that was somehow going through a rebuild. However, for most NBA fans, he will get lost in history. Lastly, we have shooting guard Aaron Aflalo. He is most known for his days in Denver in the late 2000s and early 2010s with Carmelo Anthony. He was ahead of his time as he was a great shooter in the league as well, shooting above 40% from 3 in 6 seasons. I remember him the most for being traded to Portland during the 2015 season, as I thought the Blazers formed a new Big Four and were about to be contenders heading into the playoffs. I thought that was the needle mover, but it all ended when Wes Matthews got a season-ending injury. I think most NBA fans will forget him as well. The 2010s decade definitely had some great NBA role players and stars that will go down as some of the team legends in history. However, whether it be forgotten all-stars or some fun role players on some bad teams, today I highlighted players that I think would vanish in NBA history. Leave your favorite NBA forgotten role player in the comments below for part 2, and make sure to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed.